Hey everyone, sorry about the change again on Route U. We just got back. We're gonna have to do we're gonna have to show Patrick the medical disclaimer too. We just got back last night from LA. It was a great week in South Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, and then LA, California. We had really good meetings, really good podcast. With major influencers that are using our products and getting ready to expand our products. So we're very excited about it. And I was telling the group at corporate, it really taught me a lesson on understanding that every individual person is very important, but also understanding that the ability to grow root and to tag on to these major influencers that have huge networks is also very important. So we're going to continue to do our best to listen to every comment that everyone has and look out for the overall good of the company at the same time. I had the pleasure and the gift of meeting the person that meeting with the person that introduced me to Clayton. His name's John Sally. He's called the legend in our country because he's probably one of the most famous basketball or athletes in history in this country. Because of what he's done. He won 3 consecutive decades, basically, of awards in our athletics in the country with what he's done. And so it was really great to see him again, to spend time with him and with Clayton. And he now is introducing us to a lot of verticals. And then we had a full day of meeting with shipping and logistics for Root. And also doing podcast. It was very, very busy, but a lot of great things happening. We were asked to stay and do some television stuff and do some podcast and other meetings, but I had to come back to Nashville because we have people flying in starting today for the CEO event. We have people flying in from Europe to come to this event and from all over the United States to really partner with us in what we're doing. So we're super excited. Coming out of the Rahm Foundation event and really connecting with so many people in Nashville, Tennessee has been great for us. Being able now to have people fly in here from all over the United States and from Europe and being able to host 150 people that we don't have to fly to see, that they're coming in to see us and they are of major importance is great for us because this will help the Root community to really grow. And we're super excited about that. So I just want to say this to everyone. Please keep sending your comments on what you think about our marketing and how you think we should market and how we should do things. And then we're going to make a decision as a company with our attorneys on the best way to really market and do the things we need to do so that we can protect the community and so we can really grow this Root brand. And before we get into the genetic test, I do want to read the medical disclaimer. And just so you guys know, again, we do not, this is for educational purposes only. This is not intended for medical advice or a substitute for medical advice. You should not use this information for diagnosing a health or fitness problem or disease. You should always consult with a doctor or other healthcare professional for information, diagnosis, and treatment. And we do not claim to treat, diagnose, mitigate, prevent, or cure diseases. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me talk to you guys a little bit about the dosing of our products, because this has been a topic that's been brought to my attention over the last couple of weeks repetitively. The dosing of our products, so let's use Crush as an example. Crush has double the dosing that's on the label. So for a person like me, Crush will last 2 months to 2.5 months. And a lot of our products are like that. When we do dosing for our products, we always basically overfill the products. And let me explain that. When we first launched Clean Slate, people came to us and said, after the second batch, that there wasn't enough product in Clean Slate. That wasn't true at all. We will overfill a bottle so that we make sure people have extra. So when it hits the exact number, that's not us underfilling. That's us covering the label, right? Like 30 doses. Another fact about that is sometimes because of the weight, and I'll use that with the peptides with Crush or with Sculpt, we put a less, how do I say this? Patrick, you maybe have to say it for me. We put an amount that like someone that weighs 80 to 90 to 110 pounds might take. We also look at guidance from the governments on what they say, how much peptide someone can take. That being said, someone like Dylan, who's a weightlifter, and he's, 6'1", 6'2", and he's really muscular, he will take double that dosing and it will still last a month. So there's actually double the amount in crush of what a normal person can say per the dosing regimen that's on there. Because I always try to underestimate and not overestimate. Patrick, can you explain that in another way so that I'm correctly?
Absolutely. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware. So Dr. Ram was referring to Crush, but all of our products, starting with Clean Slate, since that was our hero product, we always overfilled in what the label actually said the contents were from the nutritional info and like the supplement facts. What we found out over the last couple weeks, since we've all been using here at HQ Crush, is that it's been lasting longer for all of us. And so the recommended dosage guidelines that is on the label doesn't match the quantity of servings. Because again, to Dr. Ram's point, like somebody like Dylan might take double the dosage that is recommended. So he is still going to go through it in those 30 days. But somebody like me, I was just following the regular dosage guidelines. My bottle of Crush lasted me almost 3 months. And so we were looking at the label going, oh my gosh, we're undervaluing Crush from a cost per serving type of a way to market it. And so we wanted to make sure that we talked to everyone and formulated like a good plan that we could help educate everyone to really review that the supplement nutritional info on the label is really also a guideline, but it's lasting longer for everybody that we've been in contact with. And that's Crush, Clean Slate. That's across the board for all of Dr. Ram's products.
It's like I told Patrick, I would rather people have more of the dose than not enough, right? And also because I have to follow guidelines in every country, every country's different. So I always am careful on those guidelines. And then another thing, I'll use me as an example again, Relive Greens. I triple the dose for me. And people are always like, Christina, why do you take so many Relive Greens? Well, because for me, my body needs more Relive Greens. However, some people are not able to take that amount of Relive Greens, right? Because they're like, I'm using the bathroom too much, or it's too much greens. That's fine. But for me, I triple the dosing. You really, when it comes to dosing regimens with natural products, again, I want to say this, we have to follow the government rules. So if the government in Switzerland says that a key ingredient is you can only have 25 milligrams in that country, then we do it across the board because we're in 80 countries. So like, in my opinion, the vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc guidelines in the United States and in Europe are not high enough for vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. However, I have to follow the government laws and all their registration. And the second part for me is I never want someone to come to us and say, well, there wasn't enough product in the packaging, which is why we overfill and make sure that you guys get even extra. I just wanted to let you all know that. Now, Dylan does take double the amount of Crush, right? And it still lasts him over a month per that labeling. I'm going to stop right now and have people ask questions because I think this is an important topic. And another thing I want you guys to know is we are going to clarify on labels that it's dependent on size and weight so that people know that as well, because that will help us be able to explain it to other people. So for example, if Claire has a customer that is 90 pounds and her DNA does not know how to really metabolize vitamin D as well as it should, and she needs extra vitamin D, she can take more of the product. You can tell her that, Claire. It's just that we have to go by the standards of the government of what's typical, if that makes sense. But I do want to make sure you guys know with Crush, that product is costing most people about $45 or $40 a month and not 90 because it lasts more than a month. So that should be a major selling point or educational point that you guys can talk to people about. Do we have questions about this, Patrick?
Yeah, I want to make sure that everyone understands kind of really what Dr. Rahm was mentioning. This is your opportunity where you can ask a question about a particular product if you do have any questions. If not, we can just move on. Nurse Christy, you can go ahead and ask. How are you? Good to see you again.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Dr. Christina.
Hi.
How would you determine if somebody would be doing the double the amount? Are you going to base it on lack of results? Or are you going to base it on their weight?
We don't, we
their
can't,
physical-
we can't do that. It's like saying if you took Zithromax, I mean, you're a nurse, so you know this. If you took Zithromax at 250 milligrams for a sinus infection, Pfizer realized later, right, that they needed 500 milligrams in one round. And if that one round didn't work, you wait 5 to 6 days and you start another round, right? So there's no, and the reason for that is people will develop a resistance with that antibiotic, right? And so they need to go to a higher dosing. With natural products, even if we did, and we do, and we do tons of testing on our products, right? Now we have literature reviews and white papers and patents and everything else. And we are, just to let everyone know, getting ready to add the patent number to the actual product so that you guys have the patent number, people can look up and they know our products are patented. We haven't done that. That's another step we're getting ready to take. We have now 7 patents that have been approved. We are just filing for autism patent. And then after that, I'm filing for an ADHD patent. And we're going to start adding all those patents to the label so that you guys have those talking points. But when it comes to dosing, it's going to be dependent really on the weight and on the DNA and on the person. Starting at a lesser dose, Nurse Christy, was important to me because I do know some people experience side effects. And so let me just say this to everyone. When people start taking our products, this just happened today. When people start taking our products, they may have had something that's not typical that's happened in their lives. Like they have a, let me think of something. They get a cold, right? They always want to blame the products, whether it's good or bad. And the truth is sometimes people just get a cold, right? But depending on the dosing, there's more of a propensity to have a side effect. However, to Nurse Christy and to Dylan's point and everyone else's point, I think Nicole said something on a text about this. You may need another dose of that, right? Of Crush because your body's older and you need to produce more peptides and aminos like me, right? So I actually don't follow the dosing a lot. Like when it comes to Clean Slate, if I get sick, I take up to 50 drops, right? Do I tell anyone else to do that? No. Why? Because I know if there's a reaction or something happens, it's all going to be because of the Clean Slate, and I just don't want to cause increased issues. But the truth is, yes, if you aren't getting the results from that dosing, my recommendation would be to go up on the dosing. I just don't want people, peptides are so great for you, right? Aminos are so great. And that product, Crush, is crushing it all over the world. Like Crush is like a major game changer for people, even at the dose that's the lesser dose. I think what everyone needs to remember is on the packaging, I'm putting the lesser dose of what I recommend. Does that make sense, Nurse Christy? And then we're going to try to market, like I'm going to start doing post and start talking about it. That's your least dose. That being said, Nurse Christy, you know this, Claire knows this, Patrick knows this, Gabriel knows this. We all know this. Some people never get up to 20 drops of Clean Slate because their comment is, I did 5 in the morning and 5 at night. And when I go higher, I don't feel as great. That's fine too. So it really is something, and I'll use another example. Let's say I made spaghetti tonight. I always bring this back to food. And I know that I'm only supposed to have this amount of protein on my plate, right? Like my fist, or this much carbs on my plate. But I eat extra because I feel like my body needs more protein. That's okay too, right? And I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer, but this is the answer that is the correct answer. That's the honest answer. Instead of us just making up a story that's not correct, this is the truth. I don't want people taking 3 to 4 times more relive grains unless like they really feel like they need it. If you ask me, why do I feel like I need it? It's something that helps me considerably, and I understand the effects that I can't really talk about publicly. I understand how it's impacted me with the diseases I've had in my life and my cardiovascular system and my GI system, and the fact that I am prone to cancer. Relive grains and clean slate and 0N are so important to me. Immune defense shield, crush is hugely important to me now because I notice a big difference in how I feel when I take crush. If you ask me, am I going to double the dose? I already take more than what's recommended of crush, just so everyone knows. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I forget, but a lot of times I just throw it in there. And I did want you all to know this though, because some people that are worried about spending money, you guys hear me say, listen, if you can't afford Restore, because it's only 15 in a box, then put half of it into the refrigerator and do half a day instead of a full one a day. And if you ask me, is that still helping them? Absolutely. Would it help them more if they took a full packet? Probably. But I also understand people can't afford everything. So we're trying to really juggle the health benefits, the economic benefits. We're trying to wrap our arms around marketing so that we can really share this with you all and you have the answers. If there's any guidance you guys want to give us or help us with how we are communicating this, please let us know. But it is the reason why, again, that sometimes people are like, there's not enough of this in this product. They're overfilled, if that makes sense. Like there's extra dosing in almost I think in every product that we have, except for the pills, because they fit into the pills. But even with the pills, Nurse Christy, for example, I think there's some people take 5 0 a day. I know Regina does, right? And that's what she needs, she says, to feel better. And that could be true because in her body, it may need the turmeric curcumin or the resveratrol, right? It may need different components of that. So everyone's different. Actually, resveratrol is not in L-theanine, they may need more pine bark, more. So you understand what I'm saying. And hopefully that explains that to you all. But again, digest that, think about that. And then if you guys have comments on how we should market that the best, let us know. It's going to help to put the patent number. I said this during the podcast when I was doing the podcast in LA. I have the patent number that I've now given to Root for all the products to get rid of lectin in the plant seeds and oils. The manufacturers have that as well. They're supposed to follow the guidelines of what I've set to clean out every ingredient we have before it's even made, right? And if you ask me, does any other company have that? Not that I know of, because I don't know of another company that has the patents on that. So they may be able to produce, for example, resveratrol, but are they using the same method to clean it out, detox it, remediate it, and then make the formula? And my answer is no, they're not, right? Because there's no way that they have the ability or the knowledge to do that. That's why even at a smaller dosing, in my opinion, our products are better than the ones that have higher dosing because they've been cleaned, they have been isolated, they have a bioavailability and efficacious and safety that other products, in my opinion, don't have. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that I covered that with you all. And again, if you have recommendations from the science perspective, business sales perspective, marketing perspective on how we need to talk about this, please let us know. I do bring it into Root Use. If you guys have watched Root Use, I've brought this in, but I wanted to make sure that I discussed it in more depth because of Crush and because of Sculpt and because of the different products that we're launching. The same will apply to the peptides. So the peptides for the skin are what help with like your body reproducing things and really helping the body regenerate, right? We now have peptides in Crush, and now you guys are getting ready to have a skincare line that is going to impact that as well. And again, this goes back to we have peptides that are being cleaned and detoxed before they're being put into a formula. And if you ask me, are other people doing that? I've never heard of another company doing that other than us. And that's why I think our products, like when the skincare comes out, I think it's going to honestly kill any other skincare line as far as performance. It's going to really exceed expectations because of how the ingredients have been made and how the process has been made in the lab. All right, let's go on.
Thank you for explaining that. Thank
Does
you.
does that make sense, Nurse Christy? Like on how you can explain that to people? And that's where someone with expertise like you can really step in and guide people. This is why I think it's so important that we have the doctor-to-doctor groups and the nutritional groups, that everyone's talking about it and everyone is able to really communicate that effectively.
Yeah, and just quickly, what you had said, it does make a lot of sense, because for me, with the chronic fatigue due to the mold that I've been dealing with, I was one of the people who took 0 in 5 times, you know, five pills a day just to get through the day. As I have added increased greens, but especially the crush and the sculpt, I've been able to back off of the 0 in. So I'm
Yeah.
not having to take as much of that anymore. So
I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up, because I've had so many WhatsApps about that. I've had a lot of people asking me why they don't need to take as much 0 in after crush and sculpt. And it is because the body starts working more effectively and starts really clearing out the longer you're on these products. Because remember, your goal is to detox and then remediate. If you want to regenerate the body and you want to reverse aging, then you've got to take these different steps, right? And it does take time. But one of the things you'll notice is if you look at pictures of yourself before you were on these products and then after, even though you're aging, most of you guys are going to notice that you look really good and you don't look older. And that's my goal. I really want people to notice on the inside of their bodies and on the outside of the bodies that they're making a change. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's absolutely true. We have a lot of people that are reaching out about the 0 in and they're still taking it. I take it every day, but I do think the crush and sculpt are helping significantly with that. And we also, guys, just so you know, are having tons of people that were having problems losing weight on sculpt that are losing weight now. Now, I think it's twofold. I think some of those people are doubling their dose and then they added crush, right? I think that's one of it. One of the reasons. And the second one is because it takes time for some people's bodies and their metabolism to really change, because this is not a pharmaceutical product that uses a synthetic. These are all natural products. All right, so let's go on to the genetic testing. I know we did the first half of this, and let's go into the second half. So Clayton, by the way, brought up, and he may have told you guys this in your when he did his ambassador call. I have no idea if he did or didn't. Clayton, for example, in his genetic testing, it shows that he's basically always hungry, right? And that he, and I've said this before, Clayton can eat, and I think he may have brought it up on my podcast too, or my you. Clayton eats more than any human being I've ever seen. And I mean, people that are larger people. Clayton eats more than them. His metabolism is very, very high. So he's processing it. His ability to basically utilize the vitamins in it are very high, but he's hungry, right? Now, Crush and Sculpt have changed that for Clay. If you guys saw him in person, he has lost significant weight. I can say this as his wife. At first, when he was doing Crush and Sculpt, I'm like, Clay, you're gaining weight, not losing weight. I don't understand. And he kept saying, just give me time. Just give me time. I'm going to keep trying it. So he only lost like 2 pounds for a while. And now he's lost significant weight because he kept taking the Sculpt and the Crush. And again, that just shows you how everyone's DNA is different, how everyone's body's different. I will tell you, Clayton did increase the dosing. I don't know if he's told people that, but he did, to the point that I was like, Clayton, Joy Smallwood's in my office. I was like, Clayton, that's too much of that product. But of course, Clay doesn't care. He's doubling down on whatever he can to make that change. And he has made that change and he feels and looks great. For me, it was more instantaneous. I'll say that it helped me a lot in the beginning. And then it kind of stabilized where I feel like, I don't want to lose more weight, but I've stabilized. I'm not losing more weight. Now, if you ask me if I wanted to, what I would do is I would increase the dosing of Sculpt and of Crush, and I would probably even take more Relive greens, because Relive greens and Zero In, and I'm just going to say this again to you guys, Clean Slate, Zero In, Relive greens, those all have the ability to speed up the metabolism and to really impact the body. We can't claim it's going to make you lose weight, but there's been plenty of people that have lost weight, like a Ted Baker, for example, when he first started those products, he lost weight. So all of our products working synergetically together are really meant to sculpt and tone the body, which is why the app is important, which is why the new book coming out telling people that is important, because we really want to show people a better way of really impacting their bodies. And I really think that Root is that way. I think it's that path. But when it goes back to the genetic testing, this tool for genetic testing for all of you guys could really impact your life, not short term, not middle term, but long term as well. All of those, I think you would see a huge difference. So we talked about how when working out and with vitamins and minerals and how your body's processing things, what to do. And now we're going to talk about really looking at innovative, healthy age programs and how this GX Renew really can help you with it. So if you look at this page, it talks about the numerous aging signs and genetic predispositions that really indicate what you should do for lifestyle changes based on your DNA. This report even goes into summaries of results that show sun sensitivity, skin aging, facial aging, stretch marks, all of that stuff. It goes into motivation to exercise. It can help you adopt a diet and changing behavior so that you're functioning more appropriately. And so that's why this is extremely important for people to look at as it pertains to your own body. So let's go on to show the test. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, this is hard to read, and I apologize about that. It's really light. If you look at this particular summary, it looks at, for example, sun sensitivity, and it shows favorable. And this shows that basically they are inclined to have a favorable level of sun sensitivity. And the skin is more likely to tan and unlikely to burn. So this person's lucky. And I would say that's probably what my result would be, because I tan very, very easily. I get dark very quick, and I don't get a lot of sunburns. I will burn, but by the next day, it's typically turned into a suntan. However, my daughter, Mariella, if she goes out in the sun, she's going to burn, right? And she's going to burn pretty bad. So she stays out of the sun because of that, because she can't stand the burning. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to get skin cancer. I've had skin cancer. So skin cancer is a risk even if you don't sunburn, just so you guys know. Even if you're someone like me that tans more, you can still get skin cancer. This particular test showed that skin aging and the genes associated were normal. And it indicated that basically that this person was likely to have a normal level of skin aging, as evidenced by age spots and other things. So that's pretty good. Right now, I would like to have mine to say I'm above average. Of course, we all would. And that goes back to, yes, there are genetics, there are epigenetics, but using certain things on your skin can alter some of this. And then taking some of our products as well can alter some of this. So that's really important to remember. So if you're someone, for example, that ages very quickly with your skin, it doesn't mean that you can't get help. It means that you need to really double down on products and different things that can help your skin, because your skin ages faster. And that is true. Some people, it has nothing to do with smoking or drinking or the environment. They just are aging quicker. So skin, basically, glyceration, which is the next one that talks about this shows this individual is below average with a level of protection. So basically, their skin and the glycine is not as good as it should be. They're below average. And that means that they need to really practice a healthy diet and exercise to really support the skin integrity and make sure they take products to support the integrity of the skin. The facial aging of this person is normal. When they look at facial aging, when you guys get your report back, it's going to show if you have a normal level of skin aging. It's also going to show skin damage and how easy it is for your skin to damage. And again, for a person that is normal or below normal, peptides, aminos, phytoplanktons, the stuff that we have in our skincare line should really help them. But it doesn't mean it won't help a person that has normal or above average. It just means that someone would benefit more or need it more when they don't have as high of a score. Stretch marks, same thing. So just so you guys know, not that it matters to anyone, but I've had 4 children. I've never had a stretch mark. And my mother said to me, you're very lucky. My sister, she were here, she would say, and she's skinnier than me, and she's smaller, and she has had stretch marks. And people will say, well, why does one person have stretch marks and another doesn't? And again, it's a genetic profile. My genetic profile is not the same as my mother or my sister. They're connected, but they're different. I've never had stretch marks. And it's not just because I practiced a healthy diet or exercised or did anything. I just have in my genetics, I don't develop these stretch marks. And that's great, but here's what I would say. If you do develop them, there are things you can do, and that's one of the reasons and the purposes of the Root products and of what we do. You're able to look at this report. For example, if I knew someone had stretch marks, I would tell them you need to put on Renew because it has a phytoplankton, and then you need to add the moisturizer and the serum from the peptide line to the skin to try to get rid of the stretch marks you have. And and if you said to me, are the products indicated for that? No, but do I think the products would help with that? Absolutely. Do I think that Crush, even though it's not going on the outside of the skin, could help on the inside? And the answer is yes, because your body, if you have peptides and aminos, they're able to combat things even with the skin more than if you don't have the right amount in your body. And remember, from the day you're born, you're losing a lot of that. So you really do need to replenish that in the body. This talks about fat loss, response to cardio. And again, this is something that for me, and I don't know about you all, but it's really important to look at. This particular person shows that it indicates the fat response to cardio is enhanced. And if you remember, based on the earlier results that we showed last week, this person did have good results in the other area as it pertains to this. So this individual's lucky. They're able to really lose weight when they do cardiovascular or even they do weight management. And that showed in the earlier report as well. So it's very consistent when you look at these genes and the test, because all the genes are different. Like your LPL gene, for example, that's one of the things that shows how you respond to exercise and cardio. And that's why this test knows that that person is able to lose weight if they will work out and like an elliptical trainer for 30 to 50 minutes. And if I were this person and I read this, I would be doubling down on that if I wanted to lose weight and be healthier. I would look at what I needed to do based on my genes, and then I would apply it. And I think that's what's so instrumental about this. Going back, Nurse Christy and Claire and all of you guys that I was talking to earlier, if you look at this, this is going to help guide the customers on how much of the products they should take and what they should do, since every person's different, right? Every single person's different. If you look at the last one, it talks about body composition response to strength training. And so this talks about basically how they respond, and they respond normally. And if you look at all the genes, look at all the genes that are basically connected to that. There's a lot, right? They are connected, and they all tell the story of how this person responds when they do strength training. So it's basically your weight training, right? And the person's normal. So basically the person will lose body fat in response to this. If this person were below normal, it would be harder. And this person would definitely need more Crush and probably more Sculpt, if that makes sense. Let's go to the next slide. And if you ask me if we are going to do any individual results and discussions on this, we are. We're going to take some of the results. If you guys will sign a release, I can meet with some of you guys and go over the results and talk through them. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do that, but this is a guide for the doctors and scientists in this group, which is why, Patrick, I said the doctor to doctor call. We've got to go over this. Giving guidance to people based on this test is really important, but you guys understanding it can be on the same level. If you guys will start understanding what these results mean and how our products can be put in to really help people, it's a game changer in nutrition and in health and in wellness. This is a game changer for everyone. It's not just a doctor that can read those. You guys can read each statement and you can understand by having conversations with me and with the company how we need to apply the different products to it as well. So this one's looking at different genes. It's looking at motivation to exercise intrinsically. And what that means is, do you really want to exercise? Does your body want to exercise? This shows that this person more than likely feels like they want to exercise. And that's based on BDNF gene. That particular gene shows different types of motivation as it occurs with physical health. How interesting is that? Like for me, it's fascinating that there's a gene that's determining that in your body. It doesn't mean that you can't alter that, right? Because the power of the mind is so important. But this does show that this person, again, would enjoy and benefit from 150 minutes of activity a week. And if you remember throughout this test, consistently, this individual is getting the same report to show that's what they need to do. If you remember earlier, addictive behavior, stimulus control, there was another test that looked at this for this individual. This is not an addictive personality. This person has DRD2. You're looking at that gene, and it shows that basically in response to that gene, that this individual will not overindulge typically in anything stimulating or any excess of anything. So again, what if your result shows you are likely to have addictive behavior? Well, then you know, and you know to try to focus that on something that's highly productive. Like I would say in my family, we probably have that gene that shows that we can be addicted. So I throw myself in to helping others and to work. Right. That's when because at a young age, my master's and my doctorate degree were in psychology. So I recognized at an early age that I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of ability to manage and juggle different things. And I knew that I was gifted, to be honest, at certain types of gambling. and Clay talks about it all the time. He always wants me to go gambling because I win a lot, right? Well, I don't want to gamble. And if you ask me why I don't want to gamble, why would I want to get addicted to something that I can't stop? I also monitor how much I drink. If I'm drinking 3 glasses of alcohol, for example, I know that I probably need to stop, right? That it's too much. And I know that it's not something that I should do every day. If I have 1 drink, and again, I'm not encouraging drinking. I don't feel bad if I have 1 drink. I do feel bad if I have 1 drink that has a lot of sugar in it. And if you want to know why, because my body does not metabolize sugar. I also understand that when you look at certain types of colon cancer and you look at certain GI, like, for example, your agave tequila is not something that's usually a trigger. However, your rums, your whiskeys, things like that, those contribute to really disrupting the microbiome, and they can really trigger addiction. And the reason I'm bringing myself up as an example is we're all different. Guys, listen, we're not here in this root community to judge each other. We're not here to tell other people what to do and not to do. We are here to show unconditional acceptance and love and how we each can be better human beings. And I think this genetic test is so important. And I want to tell you why. It's important because it's telling people how God basically made them on this journey, or how they were made genetically, and then what they can do to even become better. And every one of us has a different vision of what that is. And I can tell you, for someone like me, that vision is to be better in every area of my life. physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so looking at this, it does matter that I look at my genetic test and I understand what I need to do to make changes and what I should and shouldn't focus on. Sleep duration on this particular individual, I skipped one. Impulse control and taste preference is normal. That doesn't surprise me at all, because let me tell you this, addictive behavior and impulse control and taste preference are linked, because the FTO gene and DRD2 gene are linked. And what that means is they coincide. So if a person has addictive behavior, a lot of times they have impulse control. I don't have impulse control though, so it's not always accurate. I can control almost any impulse I have, to the point that I don't understand when people don't have impulse control, because I'm like, why? And so here's my answer to that. They were born without as much impulse control. I can't judge them, can I? Instead, you need to show that person how they basically can handle that. And when it comes to food, that means they need to understand they need to mindfully eat. So they need to not make a decision to just eat everything on the table. They need to consciously figure out what they're going to eat, because a person that has an issue with impulse control would come out and just eat everything, and they would gain weight. So they have to understand, if they have this issue due to a genetic, they're going to focus on that. And then if you ask me what products we have that would impact that in a positive way, my answer is Clean Slate, Relive Greens, Crush and Sculpt, and Immune Defense Shield, and probably even Restore. And if you ask me why, it's because you really want to give them the ingredients they need that show that they don't want to make an impulse control decision that's going to impact them negatively. And we can get into that more later, but that is a trigger again. So when you look at this, that can guide a person on exactly how much product they should take.
Dr. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't think, and maybe I might be wrong, this is insane to get this blueprint to understand how you can make an impact on your body, whether it's like working out or what to eat. This is such a phenomenal thing that you can utilize to not only make an impact on your health and wellness, but to better show up.
Yeah, what are people saying, Patrick? Because I must have missed it. They're thinking it's
No,
telling.
the more that I dive into, like, you know, even like some of these tests that we're seeing, it's just such an impact that you can have.
Yeah.
On how you, when to work out, that's going to be better for you, what to eat, how much to eat, like even like the
How much to
addictive behavior.
sleep?
Yeah.
Everything. It really can guide. I mean, it even shows you if you're not processing vitamin D, right? Or what vitamins you struggle with. The test is really, really good as an information piece to really guide people. Like, so you're absolutely right, Patrick. It's, you know, we can't tell people what to do with their life. This is a blueprint that can show them so many things that can elevate them. And I love how Clayton says, to a level of greatness, right? I think everyone in our community is an amazing person, but you want to get the best out of every single individual. We talk about capital all the time. Everyone's worried about the economy. The capital we need to worry about the most, the economy we need to worry about the most is ours. We have the most energy. We have the ability to make changes. So this gives you a guide on how you can make changes and how you can use our products and other products and how you can live your life. It's a really great guidebook on how you can make those changes. Stephanie, what do you need on my? Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. So sleep duration on this particular one, for example, looks at, this shows an above average amount of sleep. Sorry, guys. Can we do that later though? Okay. All right. Sorry, we're trying to work on calendar and I'm trying to focus on this. I'm not doing a very good job today. I have so much on my mind. I apologize to everyone. So with sleep duration, this is showing basically an above average for this person. And that means that they are more likely to get an above average amount of sleep per night. So that's really great. What that means really, guys, is that this person, 6.8 hours is the average. I didn't really realize that. I know it needs to be 8, but 6.8 is what a normal person's getting. but many lifestyles and diets and behaviors can change that duration. But this shows this person repetitively would need to do that 7 to 8 hours in order to really restore, and they should, and they have more of an ability to do it. Some people don't, like I have a hard time sleeping and I need to hit that 8 hours, but this person is processing that sleep basically above average. That means they're using that to really regenerate and help focus on their body, and they're capable of doing that in a productive way. I've always been jealous of people like my father who can sleep whenever and can fall asleep wherever, because I don't have that gene. But when you see people that can do that, like Clayton can do that, for example, my dad can do that. They can fall asleep on a plane. They can fall asleep sitting at a table. That's because they have the genes that allow them to do that. So don't be jealous. Just know that you need to focus on giving your body what it needs to really help with sleep if you do not have an average or above average sleep pattern and sleep duration. Sugar intake, this is showing that this person is likely to consume a normal amount of sugar. It even shows them to avoid basically negative consequences if they have too much sugar, because this person needs to have a normal intake. It's not good for this person, if you read between the lines, to have additional sugar. They should do limited sugar a day because they're normal. But the thing is, it still matters what they produce, what they are eating. And I would say almost every person shouldn't have a lot of sugar. But this really goes over what the person should do. So if the results said above average, it would show this person is likely to crave sugar and wants to eat more than they should, and it would give additional directions to that. Let's go on to the next slide. All right. This one is looking at basically other areas, like people are worried about hearing loss. People are worried about their mental acuity, their fitness response, their systemic inflammation, unsaturated fatty acid tendencies. Let me go over this really quick because this is really cool. Mental acuity, this person's lower. That means that the genetic profile indicates that they have a lower than average risk for mental acuity decline with age. Lower than average. So basically, they use these genes, the genes that they listed, as an advantage to engage in lifestyle habits and physical and mental exercises that actually build their brain and create a larger cognitive reserve as they get older. So this isn't negative, right? This is basically showing though how quickly the person's going to decline and recommending things. So I would say everyone would benefit from 0N, for example, but some people would benefit more. So if this person said high, it would mean the person has a higher than average risk of decline, right? This is lower. They still have the risk. It's still something they have to worry about. But if it were high, it would mean that they have to worry more about like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. So you do have to make sure you read between the lines in this and not just read the first part of it so that you understand the full picture. This person has an increased level of risk of hearing loss. So this person really needs to focus on the vitamins and minerals. Like I would definitely recommend Immune Defense Shield and Relive Greens and Clean Slate for this individual as it pertains to Immune Defense Shield too, as it pertains to their ears, because this person has an increased risk for that. Longevity. This indicates that they have a normal likelihood of extreme longevity. It's pretty good. It says to the person that they I can't even talk, made the most of the advantage genetic profile. So what this is saying is they're normal, right? If this person had a lower, it would show that their longevity is not great. So they would really have to focus on the Immune Defense Shield, for example. They would want to take extra of the Immune Defense Shield. If that was someone I was talking to, I would say double down on the Immune Defense Shield because you're aging too quickly. Fitness response to cardio, this person's below average as far as the high intensity cardio. So if you read what it said earlier, sorry, the person really needed to double down on the strength training. Cardio does give them a result in some areas, but they need to look at the intensity. And that's why the overall results of these have to be looked at, because this is showing this person does not need to just walk casually. They need a high intense cardio. Systemic inflammation. This profile is showing that they are inclined to have above average systemic inflammation levels. Is that good or bad? That's bad. Just so everyone knows. So just because something says above average does not mean it's good. This means this person suffers from systemic inflammation easier than other people. So they've really got to understand that. We have to be really careful when we say our products stop inflammation, but Relive Greens, Restore, Crush, Sculpt, all of the products that we've worked on, just so you guys know, or that I've worked on, my goal was to decrease inflammation, because inflammation is what causes things like cardiovascular events, cancer, autoimmune disorders. So all of our products are really made to lower that systemic inflammation. So this person will want to take extra products because they do show that they have an issue as it pertains to that. Polyunsaturated fatty acid tendencies, this person's normal. And so it shows that basically it recommends that they swap some of the saturated fats and or simple carb rich food with unsaturated to raise the PUFA levels. And that will help with lowering cholesterol and reducing the risk of coronary artery disease. So any of you guys that have coronary artery disease or heart issues, this is something to really look at. And really what this says to me is this person needs to double down on proteins and vegetables. Again, another huge candidate for Relive Grains and Crush and Sculpt. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is showing what they are basically able to metabolize and what their tendency is. And I love this. So looking at magnesium, looking at selenium, looking at zinc. So I want to start and talk about magnesium, because we have magnesium in a lot of our products, and you guys have asked to make sure that we do slides. And Patrick, I can't forget this because I feel like I'm always saying I can't forget this and then we forget. We are going to be doing the root use as it pertains to all the articles, Patrick. We also need to do root use again as it pertains to all of the ingredients on our in our products. So I'm saying this in front of Joy and Stephanie as well. But we now have, with every product and every ingredient, we have a breakdown of minerals and vitamins. Because our products, for example, with Relive Greens and Sculpt and Crush, we don't have included really the vitamins and minerals on the label because we're using pure ingredients and they vary. But what we're going to do is on our marketing pieces and with Root U and with what we're doing, we're going to really go over this with you guys so you know what vitamins and minerals are in Crush. So you know what's in Relive Greens. So you know what's in the peptides and the skincare line. So you're not just getting what's on the label. You get all the information scientifically of what's included. So we've got to present that to them. I know we've done it before, Patrick, but we keep getting asked to do that. So we need to add that to the marketing. And then we need to also add that to this meeting. Can you guys please stop putting the check marks on the screens? So magnesium, again, this person's normal blood levels. And so they should maintain healthy blood levels of this mineral by eating plenty of magnesium, which our products have it in them as well. Like you get a ton of magnesium in the Relive Grains. I added it even with the clean slate and the clean spirits. It's in there. It's in the ingredients. Also, Restore has an immune defense shield. I could go on and on. But this person does need to eat plenty of it because the body really needs it. And that's important for them to recognize. Selenium tendency, it shows for this profile, they're above average blood levels of selenium. So it's recommended that they continue to eat. And I just want to point this out to you guys because I have so many people say to me, well, what if I'm eating too much or I'm taking too much magnesium or too much selenium? Some people, guys, not some people, people need it in their body. I've only heard of a few people in my lifetime that have had a reaction to selenium or magnesium. There are some that do, but most people need to maintain that in their body in order for their body to really process food the right way, to cognitive function the right way, and to really have even cardiovascular the right way. You need these particular minerals in your body. Zinc This shows above levels of zinc. And so if you read this, and I want to read this out loud because I get so many questions about zinc. You can take advantage of your favorable genetic tendency by eating a diet that contains food rich in zinc to get 8 to 11 milligrams of zinc each day to maintain healthy cellular functioning and strong immunity. If someone had a reaction to zinc, it would be posted here. And then it would tell people to limit the amount of zinc that their body is able to process, right? That's again why these tests are so important. Now, I'm just going to say this because we're not all doctors, we're not all scientists, everyone's different. I know there's lots of questions when it comes to this. Most people in this world need zinc, magnesium, and selenium. Some people don't need as much as others. Usually your body will process it and you'll release it when you urinate or through your skin or through different, even when you do a bowel movement, you'll get rid of certain things because the body processes it. So it's not that I'm worried, but there are a few people that don't process it as well. And this would note that, just so you guys know. Let's go on to the next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about CBD. It's interesting. When I met Clayton, I was asked by the NBA and the NFL to work on CBD and THC food. So I was actually brought in by some famous chefs, and I bet Patrick didn't know this, in the NFL and in the NBA to work on THC and CBD foods with their chefs. At the time, there was a big debate in the United States about CBD and THC. That's changed. Did you know that, Patrick, that now your athletes that play basketball, for example, are all allowed to consume THC and CBD?
Clay was telling me about this. That's crazy.
Yeah, so at the time, and being a scientist and having 4 children, I had worked actually on different projects in the pharmaceutical industry in this space. I did end up consulting with a few of the teams on what they were doing for their athletes. And let me explain that. CBD and THC, for example, have some health benefits for people. Like I've worked on projects before with brain tumors with kids that we had really huge success rates that I, to this day, am very thankful I was involved in the projects. We were able to help. But it also can hurt people if it's not used the right way. You know, it's not considered a pharmaceutical in most countries. In some countries it is. And that applies to almost every product we have at Root, guys. The ingredients, people can have an interaction. People can also hugely benefit, for example, from black cumin seed, right? Or turmeric curcumin. So, but it's really important to get different tests where you're looking at this. So I was extremely excited about the CBD test because one of my issues I've been worried about is the increase of CBD and THC, and some people simply can't process it because of how the isolates are and how they're made. So for example, not to get too much into this, the state of Tennessee does Delta 9 and Delta 8 is legal. It's actually not good for you. It's because those isolates and how it's made and the whole process. And I always say this to everyone, listen, it goes back to the manufacturing process. And this is so interesting. Everything's about energy. So the fact that I use music, I use polarization, I use magnets, I use different energy levels of heating and cooling and fracking in my formulas, and other people in the outside world say that doesn't matter. Well, they're not, I don't want to say they're not very smart. They don't know what they're talking about because truly everything's about energy and how you do it and how you make it. And the same applies to CBD and THC. If you're altering that synthetically, and using different types of mechanisms, it may not react well with someone's system. And that's why looking at this is really important. CBD can help with metabolism, sleep, pain, stress, alcohol, everything. But if it's not made the right way, it can hurt you. So let's go on to the next slide. And the reason, just so everyone knows, we don't have CBD currently at Root is not because I haven't worked on formulas. It's not because I haven't worked on different products. It's because of the fact that we have to go through so much regulatory rules and laws that it would be just another holdup that we have to make. Like people get upset about the German article that we're dealing with that talks about clean slate. If we stepped into the CBD space, it would be even worse. We would get a lot of different criticism because of the controversy around it. So this gives someone a comprehensive explanation about how they do handle pain and how they would react to different things. So let's look at the report. Here's your report. So this particular person, I have to say CBD would benefit this person. They have a normal metabolism with CBD. They have above average systemic for their inflammation. Like I would point to this person if I read this report and say that this could help them. However, they may increase their anxiety based on CBD. So if you look at their social anxiety tendency and their stress tolerance, it's slightly increased and slightly higher. So that means that even though this may have some health benefits from a pain tolerance or sleep duration or systemic inflammation or metabolism, it has some negative too. It can actually increase those areas, and it can increase the stress and the anxiety associated with day-to-day living. So that's something that's really important to point out. If they decide that there's a benefit to it, and it's important, that's their decision, but this will give them a guidebook and understanding, okay, they may have anxiety, they may actually be sensitive to stress more because of this, or they may have less. This even looks at alcohol sensitivity. So I want to read this really directly from the screen. Your genetic profile indicates that you're likely to be moderately sensitive to byproducts of alcohol metabolism. That means you are more likely to be able to drink slightly higher amounts of alcohol before feeling the unpleasant effects compared to more sensitive. It's important to drink in moderation. You may also wish to find a substitute for alcohol. That's extremely important. And yes, we do have the patents to decrease alcohol. So I want to point this out to everyone. Alcohol is not just in drinks. Let me say that again. There's alcohol derivatives in a lot of things you eat, in desserts, in different aspects of things that you take that people don't know about. So clean spirits was not just made to help people metabolize and get rid of alcohol in their system and to help with rehab centers. It was also made to really target the organs of the body to get rid of things like CBD or alcohol, which had bonded to the organs. And what I mean by that is food really does have imprinting. It does have energy attached. And some people will drink or do CBD or do other things, and it's hard to release that out of the system. So clean spirits is really a line that goes in and helps your body metabolize certain things that it could not metabolize. And I feel like I don't explain that well enough. The patents do state that, but I want this group to know that. That is one of the purposes, to go into the organs of the body and really help with the metabolism of things. This also goes into chronotypes and talks about basically, I think this is so interesting. The chronotype, if you look at this profile, is showing if this person is a morning person or a night person. This is very interesting because a lot of people that their body works effectively in the morning, they can metabolize, they're hungry in the morning, they like sex in the morning, they want to work out in the morning, and other people it's reverse, right? And that's because everybody's body's different. And I think it's interesting that they added this because it is connected to genes. It's a genetic predisposition. And it's really important that you guys have a spouse that takes this test too, so that you know what's going on with them. I, as a psychologist, one time had clients that I was seeing as a psychologist that had a huge fight over sex. One of them wanted sex in the morning, the other one wanted sex at night, and they never could coincide. So we settled upon a 4 p.m. time, 3 to 4 p.m., because looking at different testing that I had done and different analysis, that was a time that would work. I ended up seeing that particular couple for about 6 months. It absolutely changed their life because guess what? Sex was important to them. They were in love. They wanted to be together. They couldn't figure out why one wanted it at one time and the other didn't, so they compromised. So again, there's lots of different words of wisdom that can come from this test that can really help you all with day-to-day living, as well as help your significant other understand who you are. Like if you sit down and you have a spouse that they keep losing weight and they can eat whatever they want, like Clayton, you're like, well, that's not fair because you can eat whatever you want and I can't. But then you don't have an excuse if you're reading your test, because then you can figure out what's the best method for you to work out, right? How do you lose weight individually? Maybe you do need twice as much Sculpt and Crush, but don't blame you, blame your genes, right? And then work to correct it. Let's go to the next slide. All right, cannabis. So again, this is an area of science that I've been involved in. I never wanted to be a scientist, that's all I worked in, but I have a really good friend who I respect and love so much. Her name's Annabelle Morgan, and she had a child with a brain tumor, and her PhD from Vanderbilt is in cannabis, and she was able to effectively treat him. She's an amazing person. Her husband is from Jamaica, and he's one of the most famous rappers, R&B singers. He's on the Grammy board. His name's Gramps Morgan. So for her, it's not a big deal to, speak up about this. The truth is we need scientists that understand cannabis because it can help people. We also need scientists that aren't in the business of working on cannabis, but can explain it. And I feel like I am one of those people. I told you guys in my history, I have with cancer, we have absolutely dealt with different types of cannabis to help people. It's a huge industry. We all understand that there's billions of dollars in this industry, but can it really work? Does it work? Because just because it works for one person doesn't mean it works for everyone. So let's go on to the next slide and let's look at this. All right. So this particular person, it shows that basically, if you ask me to summarize this whole page, So let me say this, cannabis and CBD, I want to go back to this, can impact stress, right? Some people have a reaction where the cannabis and the CBD can cause an increase of stress. Some people don't. Some people experience stress more than others. And I feel like the last two reports don't give completely an accurate definition of that. However, I think when you look at everything overall, as a scientist, I can read through this and understand basically if cannabis would help this person. And if you ask me, I think this particular individual could respond effectively to cannabis. I don't think they have a high level of stress. I do think based on some of the results, this could increase the stress, but it may not either. You'd have to really test it with this individual. It indicates that this person has a normal pain tolerance. Cannabis can help with pain, right? This person probably is not going to crave cannabis or THC the way another person would because of the overall genetic profile. Like if you look at cognitive impairment, they have a normal likelihood of experiencing cognitive impairment with regular cannabis use. So if you ask me, is it worth this person using cannabis if they know it's going to impair their cognitive function and their ability to think? Again, that's going to be a decision they have to make. I want to look at another one, impulse behavior, sensation seeking, and drugs. They have a normal likelihood of impulsivity and engaging in potential risk sensation seeking behaviors and drug experimentation. Again, the good news is that cannabis can increase, it doesn't say this on here, but I'm going to tell you guys, can increase impulsivity or it can decrease because there's indicas and there's sativas. So there's differences in that. This person would have to read through what they were doing and decide if they really thought cannabis was something they would want to take. Now, if they get cancer or an autoimmune disorder, and they think that benefit is important, then they would choose to do it. But this does go over the negative as well that can occur with cannabis use. On to the next slide. And I never, just like alcohol, I never tell people they need to use cannabis or CBD. That's a conversation you have to have with your doctor and with your family. I do understand people that go through chemotherapy and cancer and autoimmune disorders and the pain and the effect that they want to have it helped them. I also understand parents that have children that have brain tumors that have gone down this route. So again, everyone's going to have a different viewpoint, a different philosophy, a different moral compass on this as a scientist, and that's the only way I can speak. I want to apologize to you guys, but I also want you to understand my job is to tell you the facts and the truth and not to make a judgment. So I'm not here to tell people whether to drink or not drink. I'm not here to tell people what they should take and what they shouldn't take. I'm here to educate you on the pros and cons, and then every person needs to make a decision based on that. I will tell you, people that get addicted to cannabis and it's something they're regularly taking, there's no way that doesn't impact your cognitive functioning and your overall ability to work and to produce as a person. Because if you're taking that long term and you're utilizing that, then there's a lot of negatives that can occur as well. And I want to make sure, again, I'm not making a moral statement. I'm just being very honest with you. It's like people that drink all the time. You can't drink all the time and be a productive person in society. It's just a fact. You've got to make sure that you remember why you're here. And speaking to you guys, I have to let you know you're here to make a difference in this world. So these tests are important. Let's say Nurse Christie has a husband or a cousin that has cancer. She would be able to give them this test and they would understand that maybe they needed to take something for the pain during the treatment, but they need to get off of it as soon as the treatment's over. Those are decisions, again, that she would have to guide someone with and they would have to make. But this does give you a blueprint on it. Sleep quality. This is interesting. This person is likely to have reduced sleep quality if they are on cannabis. So Patrick, what do you think about that?
I mean, what's crazy to me is that you would think from the association of like what cannabis is that it's going to benefit everyone the same way that it benefits you, but to look at this and see that it's different for somebody else, I think
It's interesting. Well, I want to point something out, Patrick, that I think is really important. So if you look at lifetime cannabis use, this tells you whether you would likely be addicted or not to cannabis. And I think that's an important fact. Like my personal recommendation, if you're someone that would be addicted to it, don't ever use it, right? If it impacts your sleep, I wouldn't use it. If it impacts your cognitive functioning, I wouldn't use it. However, if you develop cancer and you're in so much pain, do I understand? Yes. Do you see my point? Like, I'm not living the life each of you guys live. So we have to put that into perspective. I don't have increased stress, even though I would say my job is pretty stressful. I have a great root community that helps me lower stress, and I don't need this. However, there may be people that this does help, but they've got to pay attention to the fact that it can cause working memory problems, for example. That's not good. If you look at the second one, for example, it says you have a normal susceptibility to having an impaired working memory following cannabis use. Memory issues are very common in cannabis. That means a lot of people will forget what happened and they don't even remember. So remember, guys, now that I'm saying that, you got to pay attention to what the benefits versus the risk are. And I have to tell you, there's a lot of risk. And again, that's why this is one of the most scrutinized things. Let's go to the next slide. I know I see Nurse Christie's hand up. Let me get through this really quick. If that's okay, Nurse Christie, and we'll go back to it. Methylation genes. Oh, I still remember when I got tested for MTHFR, and I was shown to have one of the highest issues with all of this. So that was something probably 8-9 years ago I was tested on, and I don't do enough for it right now. But this looks at the methylated genes. Let's go to the next slide so I can describe it more. It's looking at basically how different things are digested. And I'm so glad that they put relived grains up here, because when you look at methylated genes and how they can impact your body, it can hugely, in a negative way, impact how your body's metabolizing things, impact how your body's working. But if you look at something like relived grains, you have the folate-rich vegetables, the antioxidants, the digestive health, the anti-inflammatory support, the detoxification support, the overall health support. So I think that's why when I say I triple the amount of Relive grains, that's why. And I have people say to me, well, what about chlorophyll or chlorella, like some of the ingredients I use? I remind people, listen, when you Google something on the internet and you see the side effects, I'll use another example. L-theanine can have a side effect of increasing herpes. We all basically carry the herpes gene somewhere in our body. We've been exposed to it at some point, either at birth or at some point. We don't talk about it. It's something that people get, oh my gosh. But the truth is, most of us are carriers. Now, do I know that I'm a carrier? No, but I would presume 99% of the people on here are, because of the new scientific information that's disclosed to us and how we understand that it will even live in the spinal cord fluid or at the base of the spine. I had a huge discussion on this when I was in LA. So your methylated problems that the body has, you really have got to clean the body. And again, this goes back to me with clean slate, clean spirits, and Relive grains. I don't talk about enough how much using the grains can really detoxify and support the body, help remediate the body, and really give you healthy things that it needs. We use ingredients that if they're used the wrong way, if they're sourced at the wrong place, they can cause a lot of problems. But I want to read this. Reducing inflammation support overall health and may indirectly benefit the methylated process by promoting a healthier internal environment. Okay, so why would I have made Relive grains if I knew I had a problem with MTHFR and in how my body was basically detoxing and how my body was methylating things? I'll answer. Because I understood how important it was for my body. In fact, I directly relate some of the health issues I've had to the fact that my body does not methylate the right way and I'm not processing things the right way, which is why I think I have oxidative damage. And I think it's one of the things that is beneficial. I think I have underestimated the entire time Relive grains. And I say this to you guys all the time, but let me go to this: broccoli, kale, spinach, parsley. This is particularly beneficial for individuals with MTHFR gene mutations, as they often require more folate to support proper methylation. So let's say on the genetic panel, it says this person's fine with folate, but if they can't methylate, their body is not using it correctly or the right way. I don't talk about this a lot, but I had 11 miscarriages. My body was not able to process different things, and I couldn't methylate and I couldn't produce in a right way. And I think it's really important to support the body in this process. We know now that 70 to 80% of the people in this world have a problem with the methylation process somewhere. And Relive grains was key to me and really helping my body work appropriately. And I can tell you, when I don't take this particular product or I don't take Clean Slate, my body reacts and I have issues. So this is a recommendation that you guys heard me keep saying throughout this process, because regardless of your genes and your epigenetics, so your DNA, and then you look at your epigenetics and what's happening, if you can cause the body to really get rid of things it doesn't need and to start working in a more productive way, then overall you're reaching a higher energy level and you're able to produce more as a human being. And I want to go back to this. We talk about money all the time. Human beings are worth more than anything in this world. The energy you possess, what you have inside of you, is coveted. It's sacred. And so you've really got to unlock that potential. I always want to say to people when they tell me something's not working, are you taking Relive grains? Instead, you hear me say, are you taking Clean Slate? Because that's what people know as far as detoxification. But I would say one of the best products I've ever worked with and on is Relive grains. And you're using ingredients that have been cleaned and now they're going into the body. Remember, we had the patents to get rid of lectin. And so we are able to use certain seeds, oils, and plants that maybe if you Google them can have a side effect, but in our products, they are helping people be more productive and healthier. Let's go on to the next slide. I could have just done a whole slide deck, by the way, guys, on the methylation and the relive grains because of how important it is. If you look at Zota powder, this is another one that we are under discussing. Again, we do have patents, and I want to reiterate this. I never want someone to say, well, Christina Rahm wants people to drink, or Christina Rahm wants people to do cannabis or CBD. That's not the case at all. I want people to be healthy, but I deal with reality. Like when I had 4 children and people told me, you need to make sure your kids never, do X, Y, or Z before they're married or X, Y, or Z before they are 21. Here's my comment. I can't live the life that my kids have. It's their life. You guys each have your own valuable life that's so important. But being able to really use certain things in your body that support methylation and support the body working correctly is really important. If your body won't methylate correctly, I want everyone on here to know that then your overall health is impacted, and indirectly your body is not biochemically functioning right and it's not reacting right. Physiology shows us that if the body is involved in an incorrect methylation process, there's all kinds of things that can happen pertaining to cancer, pertaining to autoimmune disorders. And I know that everyone knows about heavy metals, right? We know that heavy metals and pollution have caused most people's bodies to not methylate appropriately. It's one of the direct and indirect things that cause diabetes and cardiovascular and different types of cancer. So again, it's very important to help detox the body and support it. We don't talk about enough that we have a product that has a vitamin B complex in it and has vitamin C and NAC and magnesium oxide and carbonate, calcium. We don't talk about it enough. This is a key product that people aren't using enough of. And I want to point that out because, again, if you're really going down the path where you want to live to be 120, I can't say our products will do that. But what I can say is if you want to live as long and as good as possible, our products, I think, can play a key role in that by helping the body detoxify, remediate, and regenerate. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is talking again about the overall products. And if you look at Clean Slate, we all know that Clean Slate is our most controversial product. And I say this constantly, when something's controversial, it's probably pretty good. Because people don't argue about something that doesn't matter, right? They don't ever make comments unless something matters. And I go back all the time to when my grandmother used to say, well, at least they're talking about you. So they definitely talk about Clean Slate, and it's because of the ability that this bioavailable silica has to really help people. And yes, we started with the zeolite and Clino. And yes, I was able to use different types of energy levels and heating and cooling and fracking to really pull out the silica so it resembled the composition of a body and of the land, air, and water. And I was able to use different vitamins and trace minerals to really look at oxidative stress and helping the body clean itself out on the inside and support it on the inside. And yes, you guys are key to really sharing that story and helping people throughout the world. We have to keep going back to that and explaining to people how their bodies are not working like they used to and how we have to take extra steps to really clean out the body and support it. I also put on here, our Tiger did Restore because of the anti-inflammatory properties and the antioxidant properties that support this product. And again, the goal was to restore the body back to what it really should be. You can't expect to clean a body and remediate it with things like relive grains and things like the Zota powder and things like Clean Slate unless you're going to restore it, right? And I think that's why Restore is such a key component with the black cumin seed oil and the resveratrol. And Zero In again, and of course curcumin and aloe vera and apple cider vinegar. We didn't put all the key ingredients on there. And then Zero In really supports the overall health, and it also can help with the methylation indirectly by promoting overall well-being. Curcumin, same thing. It can reduce the inflammation, which is why we have it in so many of our products. It helps with the inflammation as well as with the reduction, and systemically and individually for those people that test for that on the genetic test. And then Immune Defense Shield, with basically indirectly supporting the entire metabolic process. We don't have all of that on here, but that's one of the things this product does. It's signaling and collaborating with the mitochondria and the telomeres to really support the overall body. But it does a lot of things as it pertains to, again, detoxing and supporting of the overall system. And guys, I have to tell you, now you've got all these new companies coming up and they're saying they're detox companies. And they're basically resembling a lot of what Root is doing. And that's a credit to you all, because I say this all the time. I have one voice. You guys have a lot of voices, and you've done a great job really sharing that with the world. And we just have to keep sharing it. I think Nurse Christy had a question, Patrick.
I do. First, I want to just really quickly say, when you were talking about the Zoded powder, if I could encourage people to really look at the compounds, like the calcium carbonate, the magnesium oxide. Not all magnesiums are created the same, and I get a lot of questions from people. So I just encourage you guys to learn the different compounds, because that is very important. Just to that being said, going back to the CBD, I'm curious to know if there's a correlation with this person having high anxiety and also the poor sleep quality, because with some people the cannabis can cause anxiety. And so is there a correlation between those two things?
I think there is a correlation. I would like to see even additional information because of the indicas and the sativas. So to me, it's I used the word conundrum, I think, earlier. To me, you have to really dig into the individual reports. But absolutely, like, people think cannabis can help them sleep. The truth is, cannabis can actually cause lack of sleep and can cause stress, right? But it's the fact that some people have like some types of cannabis affect the whole body, some just affect the mind. The isolates we use, for example, when we did cancer research, were very isolated. So, for example, when we would inject certain types of cannabis into a brain or a tumor, that's different than taking something that is going to go into the microbiome and into the gut and be directed throughout the body, which is why I still feel like there's a way to go with genetic testing. Like, I'll tell you this, I've been in genetic testing for years. I'd say 25 years in different projects, different environments, and we've come such a long way, and we will keep coming, forward when it pertains to this. And we plan on Root being on the cutting edge of that. Like, we had meetings while we were in LA with people that have as much money as you would ever need to buy anything they need. And our tests are above a standard that other people are doing. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because yes, the answer is it can work both ways. It can actually, if you read that overall report, like the person that I just had read the report, I would not recommend they do cannabis, for example. And again, it's not my life. I don't get to make the decisions, but I would recommend for them that it's not worth the risk overall. But that's me reading through everything and giving a recommendation. That doesn't mean that person's going to take it or that person's going to go buy it. But if it were me and I was reading this, I would say, no, I don't ever need to try that product, right? I don't need to be on it. Whereas if you took black cumin seed, I'd say 99% of the people should be on black cumin seed oil. Right? So there's a huge difference. Yeah. And that's why for me, I haven't stuck my name. I do think with a lot of athletes that have had pain and injuries, certain types of CBD and THC help them. I absolutely think that, and I don't take that away from them. I haven't been hit every day on a football field, right? I haven't had 11 concussions. I don't have the right to judge that person at all, and neither does anyone on this call. My ex-husband was a professional football player, and I don't judge him. I mean, for me, I didn't live his life. I don't understand how hard it was. I do understand enough, though, to know how much pain he was in and how hard it was to function day to day. And I don't take that lightly, which is why I do understand the NBA, the NFL, the Olympic teams looking at this as an alternative to help people other than like an opioid or a pain medicine, right? So
Exactly.
you know this, Christy, you have to weigh it. Like, if you said to me, should anyone on this call take an opioid? No, No one should take any kind of opioid, but have they? Yes. Like when I've had a root canal, right? Or I
Right.
had a child, I was on Demerol. I mean, I had kidney stones. Do I think it's good for my body? No. I think it's bad, but in extreme measures, people need different things and people go through different things. I didn't know I'd been on this phone call for an hour and a half, Patrick.
I didn't want to interrupt.
You guys, this is like one of our busiest days. That's like 30 minutes. And now I talked to you guys for a lot longer. It's very interesting to me. I wish I could read all of your reports when you get them. And for those of you that I know really well or that we comment, I would love the opportunity to just give you a quick synopsis on your reports because I think they're important. Because if you look at them line by line, sometimes it's hard to understand. But then when you put them all together, it gives you a map. And then you get to make your decisions based on that map.
I can't wait to do mine.
Yeah. Well, I have done a couple of these in my life, and I'm getting ready to do another one with this particular group because of how important they are. I think this is definitely the best one that I've seen. Assay testing for genes has high negatives and positives, so you have to be careful. And again, you can change things as far as habits in your life that change the results of this test. So when people ask me, can epigenetics change? Yes, it's a longer answer than just yes, right? But the truth is your pathways can form and change into different ways. Even your IL-2, your IL-4, your P450 pathways that we always think were really stagnant, those can change. And genetically, you can get different results. So thank you everyone for your time today. We've been on for a long time, but I love talking to you guys. And this is an area I'm super excited about because typically the only individuals that have talks like this are doctors, right? So you guys are really being educated on a level that you'll be able to really lend some expertise to other people on this.
Thank you, Dr. Christina.
Thank you, Nurse Christy, and everyone else. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.